This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. So for our first item of business is the minutes for the September meeting.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call to vote. Jason?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. It's approved. The next item we have on our agenda is public comment for non-agenda items. So, is there any public comment for non-agenda items?
My name's Whitney Lake. I was going to comment, but I think it has to do with the school edition. I was just going to crunch some numbers really quick for like 45 seconds so you could hear me speak, just have it mathematically in the background.
Okay.
I was at the parent-teacher conference and I just happened on Casey and Mark. I noticed the diagram and I just quickly did the math for them. Theoretically, let's pretend that we cover the roof with solar panels. You have 100,000 square feet divided by the area of the solar panel, which is 15. That gives you 6,666 panels. So if you went between 5,000 and 6,000 panels at 400 watts, you could then become a QF, which is a qualifying facility.
Okay.
You then force Northwestern Energy to then buy back your power. This conservatively would earn you almost twice in a year what you pay on your electricity bill, which also helps pay things like bills in other areas off. So you have, typically, it used to be $55 a megawatt hour. That's 1,000,000 watts per hour. That price has come down. It's now about $45 a megawatt hour, conservatively times 4 hours a day, times 365 days a year, is $65,700 a year earned by selling electricity back on the grid. And since the school is already on the grid, it's much simplified interconnection. And that's federal law. That's 1978. It's called PURPA, P-U-R-P-A. Northwestern Energy can't blow you off. They have to buy it because the federal law says their portfolio has to be X amount of renewable energy, which they're lagging behind. So I'm sure they're looking to do a deal which is a win-win. Plus the school earns money selling the electricity whether the school is open or not. And that's a win-win because it's a simple recalculation for engineering to accommodate static load, wind load, snow load. The addition of the weight of the solar panels on a roof is negligible. That's very straightforward engineering. So basically, that's all I wanted to throw out. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. So, all right, were there any, and if you are online, we're going to make the request that you identify yourselves with first and last name. But is there any comment on non-agenda items for those online? A minute, because there's always a lag time. One more call for non-agenda items, public comment. Okay. All right. Okay, so we will close public comment at this time. Our next agenda item, Superintendent Casey Plasma is here to go over the Ennis School presentation on their addition. plan.
I do have some handouts here. I know Krista probably has it already, but these are some of the deliverables you're starting to see kind of pop up in our school and around town, just to kind of spell out what we're doing now.
Thank you.
Here's a few, anybody want an extra one here? I don't know why I have enough, but Whitney.
Thanks, Nancy, appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody? You good? Okay. You have one already?
On my phone.
Yeah, thanks for your time tonight. This is the second time I've been before the commission just to explain what we're doing at the school as far as our project goes. I did present a couple months ago on a concept B that we had that did have some roadblocks to it with closing off a portion of Charles Street. This new concept does not close off Charles Street, but makes some improvements to it. So this handout I got here, the first page is the reason. As we know, our enrollment is growing. We're at 8.5% increase from last year. That's a significant increase for our school. And with our projected growth based off of live birth data, it's just going to continue to grow. That's what we're projecting our enrollment off of live birth data, not subdivisions, not the unknowns coming into town. So you can see it just kind of shows where our enrollment's going to go. And then just a few pictures of the deficiencies we have in our high school right now. I just want to state that our new building that was in 2012 isn't being touched. That's going to be more, it's going to be our elementary building. Right now it serves more K-8. With our growth in the elementary, will spill over into the junior high part. So that new building we have now will be primarily elementary in the future. So the new expansion will be just high school and junior high new building. So on those pictures, you can see just some crowded hallways. If you're familiar with the high school, our hallways are pretty narrow. There's not a lot of room there. A lot of our classrooms don't have any natural light. We had a pretty good wake-up call on Monday when the power went out in our school. The students in the new building elementary part had adequate light in the classroom. The high school, there's a lot of dark, pitch black classrooms when that power went off because we don't have a backup generator to turn lights on. So kind of put things in perspective. And with everything else mechanically, plumbing, fire suppression, electrical, we're not up to code. And our building is 50 right now. So I got the project rolling. How are we going to accommodate current and future growth? And then how are we going to create a safe, positive learning environment where there's adequate space for students and staff? So the second page, if you flip over, is the solution. Kind of gives you an aerial shot of what it could look like. Now, if you look, the white part, that building is the newer school that was built 2012. That'll be our elementary building. And everything that's orange on there, that'll be new, brand new. You'll see there's a white square in the middle of the orange. The plan is to keep our existing high school gym, and we have 2 gyms, and with the new gym being a flex space with a stage and an area for more community use, maybe concerts and things like that. So just kind of puts it in perspective. Also, it keeps the football field where it is now, but it does relocate regulation size track and field over to our 50 acres. The one we have now, the school, the track is not regulation, and then we'll move the track and field events over there, as well as make improvements to for our community out there as well with restrooms, concessions area for softball games. A big part of this project too is to get more community use out of our facilities, and we think that's a great start with it. If you look on the I'll switch around here. So the investment it talks about, and we've talked about this before, it's around a $59 million project. But if you look at the chart there on the anticipated bond impact for district residents, it shows the tax impact on 100,000, 200,000, or 300,000. And all we're probably thinking in here right now, there's no such thing as a $300,000 property in Ennis, but it's just a multiplier. So We are very lucky of where we live and with our tax base, the taxes aren't going to be horrible. We are working with a bond committee right now, which one of your council members, Christy, sits on that bond committee, and also in the audience, Maria Lake is here too. And we have Dino's on the bond committee as well, and Drew Henrik, as well as Cynthia Quirk. She's a community member. And I'm missing something, I can't remember who it is, but anyway, it kind of shows you what Charles Street would look like with some turnarounds in there. I think that's already been presented to you guys and to Wayne here with Christian Terrell on that. So that's a big part of our project too, is site safety. Is right now, there's a lot of parents in this room, you know how pickup and drop off goes. It can get a little wild, okay? We're doing as good as we can right now, but this would hopefully improve that, and so on and so forth. That's really all I have right now. It's just, it keeps the square footage the same as what the other contract was. It still meets all the goals that we've had through our planning committees and all of our student committee, staff committee. It still meets those goals, and it still allows for future growth. You don't really see it in here, but it would allow for growth on the south end of the football field if we had to have more square footage of classrooms. And also on part of the high school here, you can't really see it. It will allow for some growth up as well if we grow. So the parking lots will be reconfigured where there's an entrance and an exit, not just pull in wherever you want, turn around. We think the turnarounds would do a nice job with calming the traffic and having a more organized traffic flow. So that's what it is. So I just wanted to present to you today. The school board met last night. We were looking at bond draft language for consideration at the November meeting. If that was to be approved, we're anticipating a February 15th election. We are sending out a mailer to all taxpayers in the Ennis school district, everybody, including 450 taxpayers over in the Big Sky area. We are having an insert, something similar to this, that'll go inside my newsletter. We're having actually a folding party next Tuesday at the school, and we're going to get those mailed out Wednesday, so everybody will have it in their hands. And we're also looking at placing more boards around town strategically at the businesses to get it out more, and just getting out in our community and talking about it. We've done a nice job, we feel, at parent-teacher conferences. We had board members there talking about the project. We've had open house. We had a few about a month ago at the barbecue. Had great turnout. So the word is out, and we're excited about this project because it's be something great for our kids and our community. So that's all I have. Any questions? Yes, John?
Before, when you talked, you used to drop the kids off behind the elementary school and the drop off, but it looks like it's going to be in the front, probably by the roundabouts.
No, the school buses, John, will still go in the same place.
Oh, they still go
Yeah.
behind the elementary school?
Yeah, there'll still be a lane.
Because I know that was a safety issue for you.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, sorry.
To it, that's why I asked.
Yep, that's a good question. Yep. Any other questions for me?
I think it's a great design, and I'm glad it checks all the boxes for the school district.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So,
I know Ben Erickson, he's on the call. I don't know, Ben, any thoughts from you, Ben?
No, I think you did a good job, Casey. Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Erickson, 45 Architecture. I think the only thing, like, what we're really trying to focus on with this design was, obviously you guys, last time you saw option B, where we were closing off Charles Street. With this one, we kept Charles open, but site safety was still, still a priority for us. So we wanted to isolate bus from parent drop off from also high school parking. And also with the turnarounds, roundabouts, it gives you an option to have a little bit more control. You're still having students cross, but once they're in the building, the concept is to keep everybody in there until, the end of school, right? And like the only thing I think Casey mentioned was the existing tech shop building just to the west side of where the new facility is going to go will be reallocated to the district building and or adult ed building. But that building will remain with this design, and then the new VOTEC will be on the east side of the existing gym to where they'll have a brand new classroom. Also with this design, I think it's nice because with the bleachers and things like that, with the front-loaded, top-loaded bleachers, everyone will park for football games or basketball games, and they'll enter into this common space. So the two-story lobby that will be easily control to where you could do tickets, and then it goes into the concession area, and then you see a fire lane in the back, but that fire lane, I mean, ideally, it's going to feel more like a plaza or a walkway. So it's not going to be for everyday traffic. It's for the fire department only and for emergency access only. But yeah, I'm sure there's a few other questions that we have, but no, Casey did a great job.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Do you foresee any improvements to Ballard Lane?
That has not been, I don't know, I guess, that's the alley right behind there.
Yeah.
I really don't know how that would look. Ben, maybe you could answer that. It's the alley to the south, like where we drive behind our school.
Yeah, my guess, so we're trying to keep everything within the school. Obviously, there will be upgrades probably to those areas, especially if it's adjacent to the school and the construction site.
Are you guys gonna keep the existing gates that close the road?
On Charles Street? No, the plan is to keep that open now with those turnarounds.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it'll have to close for a short time just while we're upgrading. Because, I mean, Charles Street does move a little bit to the west with the new design. So there will be a period, but that would be a second or third. What's nice about this is the challenge before was phasing it all. Because not only do we have to come up with a cohesive design to kind of keep everyone together, basically the culture of the school district and all this information we've heard, but we also have to think about construction and phasing just to not make the school district and the students, live in a construction zone for 3 years. So what's nice about this is typically what we're trying to do is build the new admin space, lobby space, then the L shape where the new classroom spaces will be, where the junior high and high school would be as phase one, right? And then the existing high school where it says new, where the new gymnasium will go and the specialty spaces is basically admin with high school. So what we'll do there is then move everybody into the admin with the high school classrooms, demo it out, build all the new spaces. You'll still have a gymnasium, you'll still have your VOTEC, but ideally the 2-phase, possibly 3 with site work construction. But our goal is to have everyone only move one line. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Thank you very much. I guess that my only question will be, when you guys are ready to do is, so if we were moving Charles Street there to the west, just so it's, will we have to do like a property realignment or an easement or something along those lines, just so we're all buttoned up on that end?
There might be. One thing, this is super conceptual, right? I mean, we're still in conceptual design. We haven't gotten into schematic design and some of the fine details of what that'll be. I mean, based on our initial survey, we haven't had a full site survey yet. It was basically site surveys that have been done over the years that we're kind of patching together, and that's just to save on cost initially for the district instead of do a full survey. But our civil group will work through all that, and that might get pushed a little bit back to where it's normal. It might not, maybe we can, work through that to where we're not needing to do that, but it could be a possibility.
Yeah, no,
And
I
then
think
just
that's
look
totally
at
fair.
it.
It's a matter of just making sure everything's all.
Yep, and we'll coordinate with that and make sure that, everything's kosher for that.
I think it's a great design. So thank you for, and to the school board for putting it out there, so. Are there any questions?
I mean, I hope this doesn't happen, but what's the plan if the bond doesn't pass?
Well, if the bond doesn't pass, the plan would be to,
It just goes away.
well, it goes away and you go back and go at it again is what my
Not necessarily.
recommendation would be for, so.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if the bond doesn't, obviously there's a need and you need upgrades, right? I mean, you're growing. We've obviously located deficiencies within the school, and you keep going. You try to hear why. I mean, if it doesn't pass, there'll be reasons and we'll understand why it didn't, whether it's the program, someone didn't like that, or the site development, or the cost, or whatever it is. And that's when we go back kind of to the drawing board a little bit and figure out why it didn't pass, right? It can happen, but we'll come up with a solution to figure out how to get it to pass eventually, hopefully.
Are there any more? Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you, Superintendent Kazna, for being here. Are there any additional comments regarding the school presentation for either Ben or Superintendent Kazna? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for coming.
I'd like to comment too and just appreciate Christie's from the town sitting on the bond committee. She's been a great team member, and same with all the other bond committee members here, Maria and Dino. It's really been a big help, so thank you everybody for your help. So if you don't mind, I have.
We know. All right, get some rest.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. See you. Thanks, Casey.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is our master plan presentation. Wayne Freeman is here from Cushing Terrell, and I also believe that Nora Bland is on the call as well. And so with that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Take it away,
Wayne
Wayne.
Freeman with Cushing Terrell. Nora's was here last night. We had a public meeting, our second in-person public meeting last night. Let me see if that can get, yeah, there we go. So hopefully you can see, I don't know if those folks on the screen or on the call can see this, but okay, great. The other thing is this is posted on the website, so it's if you want to look at this, you can go to the website. It's cushingterrell.com/envision Ennis, and we'll have that up on there. And you want to go to the next slide? A little bit of what I hope to run through. This is the same presentation that Nora gave last night. I'm going to try to do it quicker because it took us over an hour and a half to get through it. So you've all got a copy of this, and then the public can download it from the website if they want to do that. But just want to run through where we are with the project. So this is kind of broken up into 3 different sections. Just a quick update on the community engagement. The draft recommendations that we have in terms of some general projects, maybe a little bit detailed look on an option for some Main Street improvements, improving pedestrian circulation and whatnot. And then really the heart of the meeting, I'll turn this around so you can look at this if you're tired of hearing me talk. Future land use map. we didn't get a lot of questions about that last night, but I think it's, from your standpoint, it's pretty important to maybe look at that and to focus on it. Next slide, please. So you've all been through the, why does Ennis need a master plan? You decided to do that. You're being pressured with growth from every angle. Frustrations are out there. It's like, what do we do? How do we get this in check in some way? Tourism is burgeoning. I just saw that the Yellowstone, with 2 months left in the year, again beat its numbers. You all experienced that during the height of that, so you know what's going on. Land and housing and building costs are increasing. You've got a lot of second home ownership, so you're growing whether you like it or not. And how can you somehow get your hands around, your arms around the growth pressures that are happening? So that's always a real good time to try to do some planning. Next slide. Where are we at in the process? So we've gone through a major public engagement process that included online surveys, steering committee meetings. There was a question last night. We couldn't name all the steering committee members. You're on the steering committee. I don't know if there's anybody else that's on the steering committee here tonight. There was a few in attendance last night. We've got, you all appointed them. This council appointed them, and they've been very helpful. We've gone through analysis of all the existing data, looked at a lot of your existing reports. Last time you did a real master plan was in '96. You did a comprehensive update, or a comp plan growth policy amendment in 2014. So there was a lot of existing data that we poured through. Really spent a lot of time through the analysis process, really looking at infrastructure numbers and looking at your roadways and your water and sewer. We've gone through, again, we had a virtual public meeting. I think we've had a number of meetings at the library and workshops. We've had a couple of additional workshops where we just came over and spent some time there. And we've started beginning the draft plan tonight. Last night we did the second public meeting, so we're here talking to you all tonight to just give you a brief update as to where we are. Hope to get a draft plan to you in December for your review and go out for public comment and public hearing on the draft plan. Tonight, we're looking for a little bit of feedback from you, the council, as to where we should be, if we're ready for some of that, or if you want to push back on some of the things that we're saying. Next slide, please. Community engagement. This is just a slide. I won't read all this, but for a community this size, we've had a diverse amount of different types of public engagement through this process. And remember, we were just coming out of COVID when we started this process. So we've tried to do it in a number of different ways and get a number of different types of feedback. I will say your community, for a community this size, pretty engaged. You've had a lot of good turnout, particularly on the day-long workshops where we've had people come in and visit with us and really spend quality time with us, talking about what's important to those individuals about Ennis. Next slide. What we've heard, you all know this, growth management. Recent growth is overwhelming, and again, I use the word frustrating for a lot of people. It's frustrating in some cases because change is coming in some way. How do you make that bend for the bulk of the community? Preserve Ennis, we've heard that over and over and over again. We hear that in small towns, but particularly passionately in Ennis. You're passionate about your community, and rightly so. More locally attainable housing. A lot of folks frustrated. They're afraid their children are not going to be able to afford to continue to live here. Can't find workers. It's a problem throughout the West. And it is particularly a problem here in the last several years. You've seen cost of properties just go through the roof. So to handle housing, affordable housing is a major issue. Infrastructure capacity. Yesterday we had the fourth steering committee. We probably spent most of the time talking about infrastructure capacity, talking about where you are with the water and wastewater capacity. While it's out there, I would argue that it's limited. And you're going to have to do something fairly quickly, both on water and I think you are prepared to have another well, but there's a lot of recommendations that we're going to have with regards to water and wastewater. Tourism impacts on infrastructure. This is it's a tourist town. There's tourists, whether or not you like it or not, they're coming through your community, and it has effects. And then again, quality of public services. We just heard that. How does that affect all of the public services that you can get? How can you serve the community? How are you structured and organized? So we've been through those types of things, and the report will talk about those recommendations here in a second. Next slide, please. Let's talk about real quick some of the recommendations. So on the ground type recommendations. So there's a new hospital. I just got another email today looking at this potential acquisition. It's public information out there now. They've had a preliminary annexation request in for that parcel of land just there on the north side of town. I think I've looked through some of their preliminary designs and their numbers, and from my standpoint, I think it's a good thing. They've quickly outgrown their hospital. I think there's plans for how that might transition. It's a great building, but it's just undersized for the community needs at this point. So that's a known project that's probably coming in 5 years. There seems to be a desire by a lot of people, particularly young mothers and young families, to have some form of an opportunity for a public center or a recreation center and pool. This area we see again, that comes out in our future land use maps. Real opportunities for commercial hospitality development along the highway. We see that that's probably one of the things that you're going to see more and more applications for as things go on, is applications for annexation into the town of Ennis along the highway, both north and south. Next slide. This is just a couple of slides. I think you all have seen this one before, this imagery. So maybe I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but there's a number of opportunities for potential affordable housing, workforce housing options, the redevelopment of the old hospital into a senior supportive housing structure, and opportunity for school expansion. We just heard that. The item B, will go into that in a minute. We see, and again, I'll talk about, this has been on the books since 1996, your 1996 master plan, at a roundabout where the Y is, where you all struggle. So it's something that we've tried to pick up, and we'll show that in a little bit. Next slide, please. And this is here on the east end, some of the potential projects, pocket park with restrooms. We've heard a lot of folks talk about that, and they came in during our workshops and were really, talking about what are some of those options to really redevelop that area and add additional restrooms more to the west of where the existing restrooms are in the existing park. Green building, redevelopment, mixed use, that's number 9, that's a small project. And again, Lions Club Park, we see some opportunities for Connectivity, we heard that last night again, trying to have some connectivity over the bridge and better connectivity from east to west along Main Street. So some of the public improvements that are out there, Main Street improvements, stormwater infrastructure. You don't have any stormwater along the roads. I've been out there. I don't know that if I've ever planted myself from stepping on the ice, but you've got issues out there for sure. I think again, better streetscaping opportunities, and again, we'll show that in a second. Looking at both north and south, some form of gateway feature, and then two-way bicycle pedestrian lane. That's perhaps an expansion of the existing bridge, because right now you can't have really a bike lane on that. It's not wide enough for it. Yeah, it's too dangerous. I've walked out there on there, and it is uncomfortable to be out on that bridge by yourself with the trucks driving by. Next slide, please. Some of the town governance funding source. We are recommending that you look to maybe hiring a couple of folks, so maybe a town, some form of a young town planner at some point, or a town manager to get the operations more centric. Maybe go through sorry about that. I'm old too.
Right person.
I'm looking at this from a standpoint, from a realistic standpoint of what you can afford. You all know it. It's a struggle, and that's why we're on this slide here. We feel that you need to go back and look at this resort tax. We had some comments last night, great comments. Why are private developers not paying some form of an impact fee? Why aren't you exploring in some way some development impact fees so that you're not paying for other folks coming in? It is across Montana. You see that Kalispell went through this a number of years ago, and there's pretty steep impact fees that a lot of communities have been implemented. You are looking at a need to, in some way, in the near future, look to start beginning to plan for a wastewater treatment plant. You know that you need 3 wells. You've got 2. One of them's operating at a partial capacity because you've only got 200 gallons a minute permitted for that particular well. So water rights are important. I think the point on this slide is funding. Where are you going to come up with this? And I think there needs to be a whole host of things to look at in terms of addressing some of the growth that's coming at you. Next slide. Land use and growth. We really think you need to update this land use code, having worked with it and going through it. Susie struggles with it, as do we, to really try to make that work for you, so that, and make it work for the public, because they come in and they don't know. I mean, it's a frustrating thing. They don't know how to do it. Willie's had trouble coming in because they try to follow the rules, but the rules are kind of archaic, and I just think that you need to have a land use code update. This is where we hired that young site staff planner.
Because they'll work for less money.
Again, I think community your size, you're on the cusp of that, and it's growing, but there's so much that's happening, and right now you're outsourcing that to consulting, and you're outsourcing it to the county. And really you're at that point where you need to be addressing it yourself. So we recommend that you begin to look at that. The other is, you all know you had a planning board here before. You couldn't fund it, or you couldn't staff it with enough volunteers, so you're outsourcing that. So that you've got a representation on the county planning board, but it is kind of unique in that the county is doing all of the preliminary planning and the subdivision planning and assisting with the annexation for you and doing it without your real input. It's not ideal. And I think that maybe an in-between step of having your own versus having a separate one is to look at a jurisdictional area within that 1 mile boundary to have a county planning board. So you're not trying to find somebody that is always just living within the confines of your existing boundaries. But if it's within that one boundary, because members of the steering committee are and outside of the limits. So I think you've got a broader pool and it affects them too. So having a county planning board to address your particular issues that are in and within that 1 mile jurisdictional boundary, I think is a real good middle of the road solution that would be helpful and would allow you to have enough folks that would be willing to serve on that town planning board. Next slide, please. Housing, it's a big issue everywhere, as I've said. I think revising the town's land use code to include perhaps some incentives for affordable housing or locally attainable housing. I just got an Airbnb in Beaufort, South Carolina for my aunt because I'm replacing her flooring and have to move her out. So I just paid $150 tax on an Airbnb for local tax. You've got 45 that we can tell active, semi-active Airbnb short-term rentals that are in town. They're not being taxed. You're not gaining that. They're lodging. So it's always the hotels and the motels that pay lodging tax, but the short-term rentals do not. So coming to grips with that, we've seen that. You're not unique. We've seen that struggle across Colorado and places in Montana. It's a relatively new phenomenon. So coming to grips with that, that's another opportunity. And the other thing that short-term rentals are doing is they are taking away from the ability for those to be long-term rentals for folks that would want to live here and contribute on a regular basis to your community. So finding a place to rent is nearly impossible. And talking with the hospital, I mean, they're having to try and buy places so that they can have their own staffing housing for folks to come in. That's not, they're not the only ones that are dealing with that. But the short-term rental market is one of the contributing factors to that. Nothing wrong with it. It's a new thing, but they should also be taxed because they are having impacts there. And right now, we're getting a free ride. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this Main Street site plan that we've got. Now, I want to say that this is just a long-term potential vision. It's a concept that is driven by looking at better pedestrian circulation in the downtown area. What are some of the things that could be done to improve that without totally changing the character of downtown? Parking drives most of the things. Parking drives most of the concerns that people have existing, but also the circulation and the amount of trucks. I was coming over yesterday, and Nora and I were coming over as she was talking. I was silently counting trucks. Counted 34 trucks at about 8:30 from Norris Road until I got to the city limits. So 34 trucks in the morning coming through there. So it's a real thing. You all know that. How do you do something along that street? How do you work with MDT? We've been trying to get a hold of those folks, but they're tough to do. So we put it off on our transportation engineering group to try to set up some meetings to to begin discussions with MDT on how they can come to the table and support you. Again, the drainage issues in town are in downtown are horrendous. But we've come up with a concept, and again, it's driven by this. We've talked with a lot of folks. We sat in the library. People came in and we were talking about this, and had a number of planners and landscape architects together. And we came up with collectively this draft concept that we've got. So what are the public benefits of this? Parking is a driven thing. So it comes up with a park once concept where it centralizes parking and visitors, encouraging them to shop and stay longer, reducing traffic, improving safety for drivers, pedestrians, and bicycles. I drove down through there again today. Most of your sidewalks are about 5 feet wide, but it's also just kind of a scavenger hunt to find your way through in some areas. So it's a little bit narrow for a community and for a main street like that. And that is driven by the angled parking. It's driven by the way that it's evolved. It's been like that for 100 years. I don't know, but that's the way that it's been. The scheme that you'll see changes that around. We're looking at trying to create and build upon this sense of place that you've got, this incredible sense of the downtown place that you have, while creating more of a walkable main street. And again, we heard yesterday, and we talked about this in our steering committee meetings about connectivity to downtown. So next slide, please. Starting off, looking at existing parking. Right now, depending upon how you really count some of the side streets, you've got existing parking counts on Main Street, somewhere between 262 and 289 parking spaces. Those are on street, 179. You've got some private lots that are there. You've got a public lot. It's got roughly about 35 to 40. So this concept expands the other areas. It does not expand the on-street Main Street. Again, that's driven over towards the wider sidewalks. So we've got an estimate of about 420-ish parking spaces. That includes 19 trailer parking. I'm selfish here because I come over here with a trailer, and I know I can't park unless I show up at before 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. I know I can't park, and I end up taking about 5 or 6 parking stalls if I were to park in there. So I'll go in, I'll take a ride at Shedhorn, drive around and come up and park on the side street. So a lot of people do that, but it is your town of trailers, your town of boat trailers, and it's something that you've got to live with. So this concept that we're coming up with adds about 130-ish parking stalls to the downtown area. And when I say adding that, it's paving and restriping some existing lots. It's adding some existing or some new lots, and it's proposing some different circulation patterns. So next slide. This is an image of what you've got right now, except the trucks are fake. We've put those in. So this is a great photograph. It's been on our website, I think, since day one. But it shows the area as you see it. Beautiful shot, but it's again, it's very narrow sidewalks. The streetscape is something that I think can be improved upon. Next slide. So this is an image of what we would see if we were to do something along this line, working in tandem with MDT to try to create a broader vision, so broader walkable sidewalks. It does change this to parallel parking. And it does add a couple of improvements to try to make it safer for individuals to cross the street at multiple locations. So it really goes in and thinks about how this would work and how this would help better facilitate pedestrian crossing and pedestrian walking. Next slide. So this is an image that shows what could be done. So and we'll go into some details of this. So on the far west side, you've got a proposed roundabout that's sized for double tractor trailer circulation. So it's big enough to handle what you're currently taking now. It improves a number of parking areas. It adds paving to some of the side streets in the existing right-of-way. It adds parking lot striping and some of the partnering opportunities with the school district and with some private-owned lots. And then on the east end, it adds a potential new lot. We have talked to some of the existing owners. We've talked to individuals. We talked to the Washburns who own that, whether or not they'd be willing to either sell or turn that into some form of a parking area. I don't know. But it was posed to them, and they've not gotten back with me yet. So I just wanted to ask whether or not it would be some of the alleyways that are behind the library. We'll zoom into that. Again, it really, in essence, what it does is it paves some of the non-paved areas and provides striping. Really nothing more than that. Combined with some wayfinding, then this could actually work if you built it the way that we're proposing. So next slide. So we'll jump into this into detail. Again, I'll say this roundabout has been on your books since 1996. If you had built it in 1996, you'd have been the first roundabout in the state. They're everywhere now. They're there because they work if they're sized right, if they're sized appropriately. I think it was telling you that I waited 5 minutes to turn left on a Saturday morning here a couple of weeks ago. And it was just weird. It was just cars were stacking and coming at just these intervals that just prohibited me from turning left. And there was only like 4 or 5 cars in front of me when I started. So I feel your pain when I come over here, but I don't have to deal with it every day that you guys do. When they improved it, 15 years ago, it was an improvement from what they had before, but it's still the growth and the numbers and the amount of traffic has increased such that at some point, NDT is probably going to be faced with looking at that god-awful potential of a stoplight there. And at some point, there's going to be enough concern out there that they'll do something. We recommend that you look at a roundabout. Keeps the fishermen here. In this case, the circulation patterns work. It allows for a turnoff and an access to the businesses over on the east side. It better utilizes and expands the parking area that exists now for the school. That's largely utilized by people going over to Town Pump. Interestingly enough, Town Pump's actually built into the right of way in there currently, and this would change some of that. Next slide, please. In looking down, this is down where the school is. You've got an expanded parking lot proposed here at the school in front of Shedhorn. This would be a one-way. The one area that I know that there's accident data on is that First Street access. It's very cumbersome turning on. It's confusing to a lot of people, particularly people that don't live here. This proposes a back-end spot, so it gives Shedhorn its own parking areas along West Main Street. But if you're coming along West Main Street, you have to turn right onto First Street and not have access onto to Main Street. Next slide. This shows the concept of going from 5-foot wide sidewalks to 14-foot wide sidewalks on each side. That would allow for the change from angled parking to parallel parking. You can read the angled parking fun facts there that are on there. And then again on 3rd Street in that location, we would show those as those are back-end stalls, kind of a new thing, but it does work. But those would be proposed on the sidewalk or on the side streets. Next slide. So what would make this function and work is that you focused on some of the parking lot restriping, the addition of the parking lot along the alley and the additions to parking in the alley, and then building, repaving the side streets in advance of doing anything else. So that would be phase 1. Phase 2, the next slide. And that would be the roundabout area, the expansion out into the existing right-of-way of the parking area for, again, boat and trailer parking in that large parking area, as well as the redevelopment of West Main Street there in front of Shedhorn. And then that proposed parking there on the east end. And again, that's private property. You know, you're not going to do that unless you've got a willing seller, willing buyer, or someone working with you on that. But it's important, I think, to look at that. Again, you come out, you drive in, you've got your RV, and it's hard to turn around. I've seen people turn around on the fishing access side and come back into town because they can't find a place to park. So that's probably important to think about. And then then would you come in and do the drainage, subsurface drainage system and the improvements along West Main, and add the parallel parking, add the 14-foot wide streetscapes, all of the amenities that might go with that. Next slide. So again, that's an image of what it would actually look like, superimposed over what exists there now from a building standpoint and a business standpoint. Next slide. So I thought I would stop there before I get into the land use plan. Do you have any questions at this point?
My one question is regarding the county planning board. So the county would still have their planning board for all of the county, and then this would be in conjunction. So who would write the staff reports and stuff like that? Would that be kind of
Ideally, it would be your new planner.
Gotcha.
Your new young planner.
But you could get people from the county instead of just doing city limits? Is that what you're trying
It
to
would be
open
a
it up?
jurisdiction of that
Yeah.
1 mile around.
So what you
Does it have to be 1 mile?
So what you are supposed to, yeah, it needs to be 1 mile. What you're supposed to have is a 1 mile planning boundary on this side. Because you don't have staff, because back in the day you don't have staff, it was never recorded. You don't have what most communities have, is what is called an extraterritorial jurisdictional boundary. You're supposed to have it. You're supposed to have a 1 mile extraterritorial. Belgrade's got a 3 mile extraterritorial boundary. And they work within so Belgrade has something to say about what happens outside of its community and vice versa, because they know in all likelihood at some point there's a potential of annexing out that far. Yours is a 1 mile. And
What
it's,
dictates-
but it was never recorded.
What dictates a community's 1 versus 3 versus 2?
Size.
Okay. Size in square acreage or population?
Population. So you're supposed to have that, but it was never recorded. So I've had a lot of conversation with Alex about how to try to replicate that, how to fix that. But that would be the recommendation that we would have, is to get a task force together, get that thing done, and have the town county planning board that involves those folks that are potentially annexing or potentially affected by what goes on within the town, and vice versa. So you've got a bigger pool of people, you've got an interested pool of people, and theoretically, then you've got a better chance to control your own destiny without hoping that it's solved at the county level.
So does that pool of people only come from that extra mile radius, or can it be outside of that mile radius?
We recommend that it be within, that you work within.
But that would give us like the golf course and Skyview. So it would give us a lot more people.
Yeah.
Have people who are directly affected.
Yeah, and those folks on the south end, what is that, Jefferson
Who
Street?
you may.
And is that a
At some
7-board member, is that is the current requirement, do you recall, if it's 7?
I don't recall. I think
Okay.
if Nora's able to talk here, maybe she knows.
Sorry, what was the question, Lisa?
My question is, do you know if it was a town, county planning board, what is the minimum number of members that would be required?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I'll have to look into that and get back to you. But I think one of the most important points here is that your town boundaries are so limited, and just a small footprint, that I think a lot of the things that we're recommending in this master plan require higher collaboration with the county, because you are so important to the state and the area surrounding the limits. All of those folks have very valid opinions and views about what should go on within the town, because they rely on it so much. So I think it's really important that the partnership be strengthened and your interlocal agreements. I believe they should be revisited and strengthened, and in that way, you can work together and then pool resources, and then again have a larger pool of people to pull from for a board that can really represent the larger Ennis community, not necessarily just within the town limits.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions here from you guys? Yes.
So regarding resort tax, I was in a meeting the other day with Danny Bierschweiler, who's the head of Montana State Resort Tax. And he suggested and sent over, I guess, an outline of like procedures to run through, like I guess, basically task number 1, action items that you would do all the way up to, educating the community. I'm just wondering, are you guys exploring?
We're recommending to you to do it, and I think that's the next step, is that you would put together a task force to do that. There's 10 communities now in Montana that take advantage of this.
He said 11.
There may be 11 now, but it is, yeah. We thought there were 10, but I use myself as an example. Why do I get the free ride? I come over and I take, I use your community as base camp, and I think people come here and you're subsidizing my fund. And it really shouldn't be that way. I mean, there should be some consumptive use tax by those coming into your community. And right now, all you're doing is trying to play catch up. You're trying to service and provide services, struggling to provide people to work in the stores or whatever. So those taxes can be used as base taxes or base funding to provide for either supporting hiring a planner or a town manager to assist in providing a 5% threshold on a 95% grant from the state to increase your wastewater system so that you're not having to jack up the rates on your own people. So it is a no-brainer in my view. And I'm getting a free ride. So it's, until you do that, I'm gonna keep coming over here.
And Wayne, I'll just quickly add to that I think that you're on the right track really about education. That is step number one. What a lot of people don't know about resort tax is that it is required that 5% be given back to property owners in the district for property tax relief. But that's just the minimum. So it can really benefit anyone that owns property, homeowners, business owners within the district, and that those district boundaries can be decided upon when you're drawing them. It doesn't have to be within single boundaries. So if it's decided that Cameron should be included in Chaucer, that those just boundaries are drawn, and it doesn't have to solely be on the town to be that tax.
I don't know if you fully heard what she said, but it's basically minimum 5% you got to pay back to the existing landowners, property owners, and property taxes. And the boundary can not just be the city boundary. You can draw your own boundary. Any other questions, comments?
And what would it cost to have, if you had the resort tax, for the person to run it? Because you're not getting the
John,
big pie, you're getting a piece.
For me, I already pay resort tax in Virginia City on that shop. So I collect the money, I do the paperwork, and I actually get a percentage back for doing the paperwork. And then I turn over the money.
Put somebody in charge of the resort tax. And that person, can look at businesses to find out, what they're doing, how much, et cetera, et cetera. And my point is, how much do you have to pay that person, male or female, whoever it be, to enforce the resort tax?
Virginia City doesn't pay anybody, if I'm correct. I think
it goes to the state. It goes to the state, and the state kicks it back to you eventually and quarterly.
But the business owners just turn in, you have a sheet every month that you turn in.
I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah.
I do know, like.
Nobody oversees
as soon as they got
it.
the resort tax, they immediately ran out and built a fire hall and a city hall that they never used. And they have to pay for it for the next 20 years. So they're not getting anything from the resort tax except for buildings.
They bought a parking lot too. The parking lot by the Pioneer, kind of right there, they bought that parking lot too. So they own that now as well.
But they still haven't paid off the fire hall from the original thing of when they said, we want a resort tax. Yeah. It hasn't really come back except for the building.
Isn't there a group that's appointed to manage the funds?
Depending on how you want to run it, yeah, that's kind of what he explained.
If you do a district, Like, so in Big Sky, they're not and we're kind of getting off track a little bit, but, they're not incorporated, and so they have a resort tax board. So if we were to use it, a greater area than the town limits, then it could be, and it could be in that way in the legislation, or in the initiative for it of how the language is done. You can do it just seasonally. You can just do it from May to October. I think Twin Bridges is looking at only doing guided trips and lodging and prepared food. So when they're looking at it, so you can structure it that way through the initiative. So you could set up a board, but typically it's if the designation is bigger than the incorporated area.
Sure.
So there was an actual district as opposed to just town limits. So
Three different sizes: resort area district, and resort communities.
So depending on how you do it, I think you would either set up a board, or if we just do city limits, it would be the council can oversee it, or you set up somebody else, I think, just to oversee it.
It could be coterminous if you wanted to just keep it.
There's so many options.
Yeah, we're just saying,
look into it.
And Tony, like
you have
the district will probably be the best
got the need
for us because of the
poster
hotels.
child that should be using.
So it doesn't change
Well,
your,
When we were talking on Wednesday, right, the group was saying, why wouldn't we incorporate all the businesses in town because it's a tourist paying it, right? And then is there a way that we could structure something where local residents get some type of rebate when they purchase it? When they go to a restaurant, because you're a local club, you get 5% off the bill, which offsets the 3%.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to you already get 5% back on your property tax release.
so you're getting money back.
If you're a homeowner, if you're a property owner. Right. This was,
5% of
That
what?
makes sense.
The amount that's collected or your taxes?
and the taxes.
5% of the money collected has to go back to tax relief or something like
so-
that.
Set up even.
Right. An owner doesn't get 5%. They
No,
get
no,
A portion of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
hopefully that more than offsets your bond issue.
today I collect 8% lodging tax for every dollar, right? I track that, I go on the state website, I submit all my data, I give a credit card, and they charge me that amount for the quarter. So this would be, I would have to do the same thing, 3% or whatever the percentage is, but I would just add that new tax onto my system. And at the end of the month, every report, I'd run a report, send that data in with a check or a credit card.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I think.
yeah, it's really easy.
It wouldn't be, are you saying it would be a hassle or it wouldn't be a hassle?
It would not be a hassle for me to set it up in the system. I'm gonna have to figure that out.
Even Robin's system that she uses is the same as mine. It's one button. You guys,
Mine isn't.
Some of the places in town have archaic registers and stuff that it would be harder at, but I think that it's still just bookkeeping.
Yeah, I think a lot of the restaurants would be able to track.
Mine's on Square, it's just one button. It's already on there. You just turn on tax.
See, our main thing with the resort tax was when the person was discussing it. We decided to go with a $75 for a homeowner and $35 for a lot owner, of which 100% of that money would go in for infrastructure for the town streets. And it's been working out really well. The streets are being taken care of. They're not all done, we know that, but they have a plan and they're planning on, tar and chipping, et cetera, et cetera. And 100% of the money went for them. Now, if you say we're going to give them a resort tax, then you'll have to give up that other tax. The 75 and 35.
No, the street and road tax would stay. You wouldn't give it up.
Why not? Why should you double tax them?
Well, you could take, so how, and not to get off course here, but how big, I think how Big Sky and maybe West Yellowstone does their resort tax board is people, I think they have a certain percentage that go to certain programs everyone, and then they take applications to that. Say the Lions Club wanted to do a project and they could apply for those resort tax funds. So it's not automatically allocated. It's kind of done by the need base on those applications. And it's up to the resort tax board to figure that out as to jury or rank those applications. In Big Sky several years, they had actually had a surplus of funds that they funded all of their applications and were left with more.
Well, I was the biggest one against the resort tax on day one, and the girl from the state did everything she could to get me to change my mind, and I wouldn't. And I still wouldn't. And when we put it to a vote, it was 90-10. They turned it down. The town didn't want it. And they didn't want to hear about it anymore.
I'll change your
But
mind,
we
John.
keep bringing it up.
I'll change your mind, John.
Yeah, and I think now we're seeing those influx of tourists, that we haven't, wasn't as rampant. I mean, with, if we get 30% of Yellowstone National Park tourists, I don't know how many actual people coming through here. That's a lot of people that are using our infrastructure. So,
Million people.
Yeah.
Million people
And,
drive through.
and I, if you don't, I can just add in really quickly. I don't know if you can hear me well. I'm sorry if you can't. But all 10 or 11 of, I know at least 10 of the potential 11 Montana communities have voted always voted to keep the resort tax in place after it is in place. And almost every single time there's way more support for it when it's in place than there was maybe initially. And also every single one of those communities is voting to increase it from 3% to 4%. So it's obviously working and have in place.
Yeah, I'd say most opposition to it is just confusion on and not knowing what it's gonna actually do.
Yeah, I think
That
that's where
you're
it needs to
gonna
be.
actually pay more by, it's gonna cost you more as a citizen or as a resident of the town.
Well, and I think having programs, or whether it be a juried system or whatever, so people know where those funds are being allocated is the most important thing. Is to know what projects are being funded. And so I think that was kind of left out of the last time. And the last time that it tried to go through, it was during the recession, and there was other kind of mitigating factors to that, so.
I got about 15 minutes.
Okay, yep, let's go, Wayne,
So future land use map. So again, land use, not zoning, not regulatory. This is just a guide. So the future land use map that is always a part of these just really looks at how to best plan for some of those things that are regulatory or are zoning, but it's used as that tool. So what is a future land use map? Hold on a second. Go back.
Sorry.
It's a tool to illustrate the community's vision for growth. Keep that in mind. It's just a tool to draw it. It's a guidance for decision-making or recommendations on projects. It's informed by public history and the landowners, and it's amendable. What a future land use map is not, it's not regulatory, it's not zoning, but it can help form your zoning and land use code. It's not a development plan. And in 1996, the comp plan and the 2014 growth policy all have future land use maps. So we're proposing a new one as part of this master plan. So now, next slide. So this is this was the 2014 Ennis growth policy, which included a future land use map. I'll really quickly go, if you look at this, it's got a whole lot of different land uses. Next slide. We're proposing to narrow those down. So this is the future land use map designation that we're proposing. So subdivision resident or suburban residential, mixed residential, corridor gateway. Again, remember I talked about north and south, looking at the corridors around and outside of town. So that's the pink color on the map. Mixed use, downtown Main Street, the drawing from the county's designation on their future land use map for the Madison River buffer area. And again, looking at, as we started in the first few slides, looking at future growth areas. So what are the updates? We're focused now inside the town boundaries and only in areas of change. We've consolidated residential designations, trying to move away from planned industrial and again adding that buffer. So next slide. Suburban residential, current conditions, we're not changing that. So that stays as is. The suburban residential, it promotes residential uses that provide more open space and it preserves the rural character. So those are areas that you can see with residential. Mixed residential, no change in current conditions, smaller lot residential with a mix of detached, attached mobile homes and multifamily, so there's really no change in use. Infill development encouraged on empty lots that and with auxiliary dwelling units. And it promotes residential units that provide a mix of housing and affordability. That was not necessarily the case previously. Next slide. Looking at mixed use, current conditions, got small lot residential, small lot commercial, all together. So you've got this mixed use. So what mixed use does, it encourages mixed use in some medium density residential. Again, to provide affordability, harkening back to that theme that we've seen and that we've heard from folks talking about need for affordable housing. So neighborhood commercial uses can be like coffee shops, personal services, provides transition from that downtown commercial district to mostly residential neighborhoods. So you've got that buffer between your existing suburban residential. Next slide. Corridor gateway, this is that, again, that thing where we see probably more development in the future and more desire to have development inside and outside your existing boundaries of the town. So current conditions, highway commercial and light industrial, extends along 287 and Montana 287 for 1 mile outside the town's boundaries. These areas are most at risk for development that potentially doesn't fit with the character that you've defined that you would like to maintain. And it will potentially affects that visual corridor of people coming in from the north and the south. Larger retail and commercial users, and it preserves some agricultural use and open space. Provides jobs and promotes mixed use development to supply affordable multifamily housing. Next slide. This is your downtown Main Street, your core of the identification of Ennis. So current conditions, you got small scale retail residential, and this encourages first floor commercial uses with residential above. Goal is to extend West Main and provide access to services. You can see on the slide, on the photo there at the lower end, extending that over onto West Main from where it is now. Again, this is your job creation area. This is where jobs, goods, and services are happening within Ennis. And we're recommending, again, design guidelines to protect that western feel of the downtown area. Next slide. Which you don't have, the county has this. This comes from the Madison County subdivision regulations, a 500-foot buffer. The intent's really to protect that core, protect the sensitive Madison River. The opportunities for trails and supporting recreational uses along that corridor. Next slide. So your future growth areas, these are the areas that are either being planned right now. You can see 130 units are proposed. Those have been submitted for subdivision to the county planning board, and they have, I think, issued yesterday a letter to recommendation to consider that not for approval, I believe. I can't remember the exact language he's got, but that's coming at you for potential annexation. Looking at the new hospital and what are those potential future growth areas that we know of within the next few years that would be probable for opening development. Next slide. Okay, so again, that is the content of my presentation. Before we go to questions and answers, the next steps would be to try to drill down on this, to get any, do you see anything that we need to pull out of there, things that we've missed that we should be adding? We're trying to do this in an hour and a half presentation, but there's a whole lot of information that we've got that is going to come in the form of a draft submittal that will go to you, go out to the public for comment, and be on the website for asking the public for comment. But that's what we see as the next step.
I guess my question would be, with the next step, obviously, this has to move through the public process, and if it was adopted, it's still going to take many years. Are there like small attainable projects that we could do right away that could be helpful?
So in the draft plan, that is you've seen snippets of where we've been, some of the major things we've got. So we're going to have not a phasing plan, but recommendation implementation plan.
Okay.
So that will be out there for you to then comment on and to say, this really needs to move up the ladder, or I don't even want this, or whatever. So there'll be actually an implementation plan that is built into the draft submittal. So you and the public will get a chance to take a shot at that.
Yeah. So I guess my concern would be like the 1996 plan.
It's been adopted and it doesn't go anywhere.
We really need to have something that is attainable.
Direction.
And direction in those steps lined out. So
a usable plan that again goes forward. Again, I think there are several things that I would say since we've started this, you've started to come to grips with looking at from an infrastructure standpoint, really trying to get your arms around what's your capacity. We're going to get some applications that are going to start drawing down that capacity. That tells me that you need to be really starting to think about, okay, we need to be preparing for wastewater treatment solution that's going to be able to expand that wastewater treatment facility, thinking about how that's going to be paid for. Most of those can be paid for through bonds that are then paid by the users, but also, again, potential impact fees from new developments that are coming in, so you're not paying for all of those on your own. Those steps will be outlined in there that you can then hopefully take off in biteable chunks and start to attack. This is a 10 to 15 year plan. So it's like the elephant, you got to bite it off at a time. So that's all of our plans have implementation plans in there so that it tells you this is what you need to do and you need to do it before here and this is why.
And Wayne, I would add to that really quickly. I think tonight we're really looking for, or maybe it doesn't have to be tonight, but I think maybe one of the most contentious things that we discussed last night at the public meeting was this Main Street plan. And I don't know if, Wayne, you want to go into a little more detail about maybe a proposed work session with town council, but we would like some direction as to moving forward with this recommendation that we really strongly believe is the right direction for Main Street, or do we need to pivot and adjust and move in a different direction? Because that is a critical piece of the master plan.
Did you understand what she was saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, it was really a question as to whether or not you all want to have a discussion workshop specifically for that part of the plan.
The phase 3.
For what you're looking at
For
now.
Main Street,
For the Main Street recommendations of, do you want to go forward with that? And that would, again, it's a long-term process, and what involves in that is working with NDT. NDT has their process, EIS, or environmental assessment. How does that, they got to go through a public process of their own. What are the recommendations? But do you want to get behind and encourage something along that line?
I would think, that a work session and getting MDT, I guess what is your and Nora's availability to do that?
I mean, I'm always available to come and work with you in a workshop.
Okay.
In a work session.
Yeah, and I think that would give us more time to get it out to the public, and because this was their,
Last night was the first time they saw it.
Yeah,
It's
so I
on the
think we need to
website.
get it out
Yep.
and push it out for more interaction and input, and maybe a place to take comments, whether that be, I don't know if Nora, if that's possible on the website, just for people to submit comments or something along those lines, and then have a work session.
There is a comment section.
Oh, okay.
For the, on the website.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, but I think, we can definitely make it a little more obvious as to if you have comments on this Main Street site, please,
Okay. Okay.
Very good. Quick question on the south corridor. So along with addressing pedestrian traffic, and I'm guessing maybe from Lions Club Park over there, are we going to address the truck traffic coming into town?
Yeah, I tried to run through it quicker and I failed miserably. Than we did last night. So one of the things that we recommend, first and foremost, is looking at temporary at south of town before you even get to the bridge, well before you get to the bridge. Having MDT, or asking MDT, because can't do it unless they do it, do some temporary rumble strips there. You can buy these things, they're like $890, and they install for a short period of time, and people run over them and see how they work, and predominantly, we know they work.
What about winter with the plows? Because right now, this time of year, when it's dark, is when the trucks happen.
Yes.
It's when it's dark, and there's no lights down there.
Yeah.
So can you put them down though in the winter with the plow trucks?
I don't know. I mean,
probably-
I'm not gonna put them down, you're not gonna put them down,
Yeah.
it's gotta be MDT to do it, but we need to ask, we need to have them, so we've got our head of our transportation division within the company asking to begin discussions in a lot of different ways of what to do with those types of issues. The noise, we know it works, it's just whether or not it's gonna drive people nuts with the noise, and what are those trade-offs? So we know they work. They've got them on Norris Road, and they dang sure work out there.
Even Harrison coming back and turning there at that stop sign, because it's dark, outside of Harrison, where you turn to Butte, there's rumble strips there.
Yeah.
There's some on Barney Road, they work.
It's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's just being sensitive to the noise. So, again, from a planning standpoint and from a standpoint of observing and being a conduit for the complaints, that's us. We're the conduit to get it to the engineering group to say, do something about that. I would also say, looking at what are the options and what are the potentials of having structural engineer look at that bridge to see if you could hang a pedestrian bikeway off the side of that bridge. I don't know if it's structurally sound enough.
It is, yeah. There's actually been a feasibility study done on that.
Oh, was there?
Mhm.
So it is?
Yep.
Well, that's great. That's great. So yeah, I mean, those are the types of things that should be happening and will come out of the implementation portion of the plan.
That is great. So I guess what is on the docket is a work session. So I guess we just need to figure out a date for that. We want to do first part of November. Are you looking to do it that soon or?
Probably as soon as you could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sooner? Well,
Last week of the month.
the last week of the month. Yep, back the 25th. So yeah, is there a preferred day? Is there a preferred day of the week?
Last week of the month worked for you.
Me? Yes. I'm out of
Doesn't
town.
one of you
I'm
have
out
to
of
be?
town next week.
All of us
Okay.
are, I think.
Being quiet. So I would prefer
The end of that.
not Thursday or Friday. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Tuesday.
I couldn't do it the 29th.
How about the 20, is it the 26th, the Tuesday?
Ginger, are you here? Yes, I get that in my day. I had Tuesday as a question mark being off in case I have a flight that's late or.
I can do it the 26th.
How do you got any more surgeries? You got.
Yeah, I do, but I'll be here.
I know, you just showed up today after having surgery.
No, I
Most
don't
dedicated public servant we have.
26th at like.
The
5.
26th?
That's fine with me.
Can we go earlier?
Yeah.
You told us.
5, is that okay for you? You working, Ed? I'm done at 4:30, so.
5:30? Yeah, let's say 5 o'clock. Does that work for you, Jason?
Sure. 5 o'clock on what date? The 20?
Tuesday, the 26th.
Tuesday, the 26th. That sounds good.
Is it public led for those?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I'll be here, correct?
We want to do it at the library.
5 o'clock.
Darcy, you're unmuted.
Darcy, you're unmuted, we hear you.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Am I reverberating?
No, you're not, you're doing good.
Okay, so I know last night at the public meeting, there was a business owner that missed out on the stakeholders meetings and had asked if there's any way to revisit, have the business owners as the stakeholders have another meeting. Is that possible?
Let's see, well, I think Nora, you did some individual interviews.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Can you guys, is this better or worse?
That's better, that's better.
Okay, great. So we did some individual interviews, walking down Main Street and just talking to the business owners that were available at the time in May, and then we tried to do a focus group interview with downtown and just general and area business owners, and we just didn't get a response rate because of the time. I mean, it was prime time in July, everybody was slammed, and so we pivoted a little bit and sent out a questionnaire because that way people could respond in their own time. But and I totally understand timing. Timing was not ideal for business owners to be getting all of the information that we needed from them at the time, at their busiest time. And we're always still collecting feedback, and I think that's an important part of this process. It's just that we're not necessarily stakeholder interviews at this time, but everybody's input and feedback is extremely important. So we're always open to any kind of feedback that business owners or members or individuals have. So yeah, I mean, we really encourage people to email us and or submit something on the website. But yeah, any feedback at any time is still really encouraged.
To the workshop there, and they can make their comments. I don't know who that business owner was, but if we want to reach out to them and have them make if they're gonna, if Nora's gonna make it more obvious on the website to put comments in, maybe we can, let them know that they can make additional comments there. Because the plan is gonna be, this is on the website, correct?
Yep, it's on the website.
And so we can collect comments that way too. So now that people have visuals to see it.
Yeah, I actually did a test today before it was even on there, so you can make comments on the website, and we've always been able to do that.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Dino, you had a question?
Well, I guess I'm just not understanding this, because this is all new to me too, right? It was the first viewing of this.
Yeah.
So when your work session that you're talking about, are we talking about the whole concept with bigger sewer, water issues, or are we just talking about vamping up Main Street at this work session?
I think on this work session, because Nora said this was the most controversial part at the public meeting last night, is to revisit this.
I would let it focus on that. I mean, I'm curious
Well, I guess I'm just, like I said, that meeting was at our school board meeting, otherwise I would have been there last night, to answer questions. So this is my first look at this. And I guess one of my questions is, one of the most important thing that I heard from public comment from your presentation was, let's keep Ennis Ennis. That picture I saw of Main Street doesn't look anything like the Ennis that I'd like to keep as a resident. And my question is, if you're doing a work session just on this, I mean, shouldn't our priority be with 130 houses coming in or potential properties down there on that in the town? Shouldn't our priority be sewer and water? I mean, shouldn't it be infrastructure and then trying to get money and impact fees from those guys instead of worrying about what we're doing with downtown right now? And maybe I'm off base.
No, I think you should be worried about that. You should be worried about your water as well. You should be worried about making sure that you've got water rights to come into the community from any developer that's coming outside that actually has water rights. If you look at your existing annexation roadmap that was developed in 2003, it says you need to have either cash in lieu or you need to provide water rights if we're annexing you into town. You don't have a mechanism right now to accept cash in lieu because there's nothing, what's it based on? Right. It was a great idea, but we don't have a base. So you're right. Those are very important things. But this is a 15-year plan, so we're talking about,
That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, we're talking about, but I think what Nora is suggesting is that we have a workshop, because that is a big thing. It's, people see it, and it is, do you even want it in the plan? That's the basis, I think, is what she's talking about. Does the council want it in the master plan, or do you want to take it out of there? And I think that's the question. What you're saying is a no-brainer. It's a yes. Yeah, it's a definite.
That's a priority.
It is a priority, yeah.
Yeah, there's just.
This isn't necessarily a priority, but I also think that if we come to MDT with a plan instead of MDT coming to us with a plan, we might be in a better situation, if that makes sense.
Oh, no.
Especially with like the roundabout area and even downtown. At some point, we should put drainage and stormwater. My place, in front of my place is a mess.
Yeah.
And they just redid that when they did the culverts and then town pump expansion, and the sidewalks are all new, and none of it worked right. So all of it needs to be addressed at some point.
Yeah, and I guess that's what my question was. I heard a work session about the downtown, and I'm thinking, well, why are we worried about that when we've got to do
the other stuff's
It's better, that's a part of the plan.
That's because we are already sure we're gonna do that part of the plan. But this part of the plan, we're not sure we're gonna do.
Yeah.
You may not wanna do it.
And if impact fees, in my opinion, they need to be on a high priority.
Yeah,
with this
I would
plan.
agree so, yeah.
If that's the case, there's just so much vacant land. We're not making any more of it for you to have the opportunity to collect those fees.
Yeah. And we were hoping that there were the zoning fees. I think it's already 9 o'clock, I think, on our agenda. I had asked the mayor to put that on the agenda, is the zoning fees on there too, because we did have a work session and came up with some values to get those on. So that, and then to do the impact fees as well. I believe the impact fees are an ordinance, so they will need to, two readings.
It's incumbent to get that moving.
Absolutely, I think we all would agree with you. Absolutely. So.
And coming out of the meeting on Wednesday, he didn't present that picture of downtown, right? So when I saw it the first time, I'm like, oh, that's new, and I'm not sure, right? But the fact that they were addressing the phases of downtown, you know, from the roundabout to parking, right? And all I hear is how bad the parking is, the diagonal parking, and how do we change that? And I like how it's put new parking spots in. And then parallel parking, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's gonna fly.
Do you know the night of Hunter's Feet? If you go downtown, I want you to think about this all night. I want you to think about this all night, because the sidewalks are this big. And just keep playing that in your mind. There's no way to change it unless we do parallel and make it the sidewalks bigger.
Have any of you all been to Sedona, Arizona?
Yep.
That's exactly what that drawing looks like. Now, the numbers are the numbers, and you've proven that you're going to get more parking.
Not proven, suggested.
Okay, your numbers suggest that, yeah. You go through this nice, beautiful highway, and you come to Sedona and you stop. And then you creep, and you creep, and you creep, and you stop, and you wait. Now, it is longer, it is bigger, they do have stoplights. But I don't care what time of the day I went through there, you don't move. There's nice wide sidewalks, there's beautiful planting, there's benches, and there's parallel parking, and there's traffic lanes about this wide.
Well, and he said,
These are actually wider than what you got now.
yeah, he said the traffic lanes are wider than what we have now.
Yeah, it's.
And currently you don't move very fast sometimes.
In the summer anyway.
Because you're watching for people backing out.
And with the ability to send something out to the business owners before you have this work session, I would really, really send an invitation out to all business owners that are in the direct effect of your plan. Because, this is the first time I'm seeing of the roundabout thing, and
we're all seeing it for the first time this week.
I like how we get this big parking lot where you can like actually come in, and, like, how many people come here with a camper trailer and they can't even stop?
Speaking of the parking lot, the one above Town Pump, Who actually owns that?
So, MDT owns part of it, as we've shown it. MDT owns part of that, and the school district owns the rest of it. So
And when that new sidewalk was put in right below the retaining wall, MDT said it couldn't come any further north because of all of the utilities that are buried underneath there. Now, I don't know if that has any bearing on any of this, but I don't know how you're
You
gonna.
gotta get to the table and have discussion.
Yeah, we'll have
As
to
I-
talk with
As I
MDT,
said
yeah, we
last
can't-
night, nothing's gonna happen for a number of years, and you've gotta go through all the process, all the EA work, all
Yeah.
of the preliminary engineering to figure out where things are, before any shovel is put in the ground. So
It's a long
we're just trying to get you to a point where, I like your town, love your town, but I think your pedestrian circulation sucks. And I think from a business standpoint, it's kind of a trade-off. Do you want that, or are you okay with it? If you're okay with it, fine. Don't do it. But I can tell you, I've done this in many other communities, and they push back. They've had the same concepts. We're losing parking out in front of our business, and they come back later and say, "You're right, works better." Businesses come in and they can have restaurants and seating out on the sidewalk. They can do, move their clothery out on the sidewalk. Can't do that now. It's just very difficult to walk down that street. And I do it do it a lot. And it's, from an outsider's perspective, that's I think your Achilles heel.
Yes, Nora?
Oh, wow, thank you for commenting. I was just gonna say that I'm really big too for children on bikes. Their biggest amenity right now is Lions Club Park, and I don't have children, but I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable with my child riding their bike on the state highway from school to Lions Club Park. But how narrow the sidewalks are now, and the fact that most properties are built to the property line. I actually talked to different business owners yesterday evening. That said that, yeah, I'm scared at times because children are riding on bikes and we want to, essentially clothesline them. So that's another factor is if you're gaining almost 10 feet of sidewalk on each side, it's not only for multiple pedestrians passing each other, it's also potentially patio space, restaurants and businesses, and space for kids on bikes to be able to ride from school to the park. Just a thought.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Darcy again.
Yes, Darcy.
This is so weird. Anyway, when is the little workshop meeting thing we're gonna do?
The work session is gonna be Tuesday, October 26th at 5 p.m.
And anyone can go?
Yes.
Here in town.
Thank you.
Well, let's decide on the location. Do you want to do it here or at the library?
Here. So
Here's-
maybe we can. Yeah, then it's
Okay.
online.
Okay.
It's set up, it's easier.
Do it.
My suggestion before you close this subject, which I think should be closed. Before this work session, I would really like to encourage whoever it is who's in charge of reaching out to the stakeholders to actually reach out to the stakeholders. Because we weren't contacted before last night. I mean, there were a few people on the steering committee who talked, and Lisa reached out to me over the summer and said, hey, would you be willing to have people reach out to you and ask questions? And I said, absolutely. And then nobody did. And so there are a lot of business owners and managers owners might not live here, but business managers along Main Street who need to know about this work session.
Yeah.
We have to know about these work sessions.
There's multiple businesses that have not been directly contacted. This is a great
They don't
way to
even know,
engage them.
they don't even know this is going on. I mean, as a business owner,
I talked to you from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah,
We've got-
you
we've
have
got-
been contacted.
We've got
You've
business
had the
owners.
opportunity.
You got business owners in here, you know how busy we are. You know, sometimes, hey, we've got this meeting, the stakeholder meeting going on, it's in one ear out the other, and in the middle of the busiest season we've had on record.
So why don't, Juju, why don't you send something to Marshall so he can send it out to all the Chamber of Commerce?
We did that, yeah, we did.
You know who they
We
are.
did that.
Send them a card.
What's that? Okay, just a minute. I think Nora was saying what they have done.
Yeah, I think Nora has, Elizabeth, absolutely, we'll let people know of the
Yeah.
work session meeting, but.
But we have.
no-
We have.
And we have, like Nora went from, and when the feedback was, oh, well, this is too busy, so then they pivoted and did the questionnaire.
Right,
And
which
she-
I did.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, so to say that you weren't contacted, because you were given the questionnaire and then the feedback there, that's where your
But I
feedback
think
is.
But I think it's different to talk to somebody.
Yeah, well, and then, but that's
It's
why
much
she
diff-
pivoted to the
Right,
questionnaires,
it's much
because
different to
people said
have-
they didn't
It's
have
much different to have
time.
a conversation, and it's much different if people know, and if Marshall is able to get the word out to all of our Main Street business owners, all the better. I think it's great. But people need to know about this work session. I think it's pretty important.
Why are you reluctant to take the extra step to make
We're not-
sure everybody knows?
I sent out emails, I sent out,
I'm not blaming you for anything.
okay, but we have taken the
I'll
extra,
pay the
we,
postage. How much does it cost to send a postcard to every business license owner on Main Street? Not much.
well, we've tried to work, that's why we've had the digital, that's why we have the website.
I
We've
understand all
worked
those
that,
things.
yes.
Why be reluctant to take one more step?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
We're not reluctant to take.
I'm just saying, from a business owner standpoint, we were a little blindsided by not the fact, we knew that the master plan was happening, and we thought it was great, that it was being worked on, and then last night, we were like, oh my God, parallel parking, taking away all these parking spaces, they've got all this stuff, and you know, the parking is near and dear to my heart. And so, and I promised I would leave my pitch park at home today, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. But I think that it's coming from a sales background, it takes 12 points of contact before people remember anything about you or your company or your business or anything that it is that you're selling. And that's for somebody even just to remember who you are. It takes 12 points of contact. Not just one phone call. And I know that everybody's very busy, but I really have to stress that this can't be another surprise to our Main Street business owners. And I'm happy to help spread the word, totally help. I will do that because I think it's important to our community and our business owners that we all know that this is part of our foreseeable master plan.
And that was part of the steering committee as well, is, you know, those 9 individuals, which I think is one of your employees that is on there.
Yep.
And so
I think he
to-
learned about this yesterday as well. I mean,
and
this
to-
was new to everybody yesterday morning.
Yeah, it was new to the whole
totally.
community. It's gonna be new at some point. At some point, it's gonna be new to everybody. And so I think that is, you know, reaching out, that was the goal of the steering committee, is to use their networks, those individual 9 networks of people, to then reach out to that. So
Well, at
we
least
will put,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think what I'm hearing here is that it is new to all of us. And
Yeah.
it seems like
calling a work session in 2 weeks to make a decision on this without.
It's not a decision on the work session is not a decision.
Okay.
It's strictly it's
Just
a
a
workshop. It's a workshop.
Okay,
It's
that's a
not calling
fallacy.
for a vote.
Okay.
We haven't even got to the draft.
Yeah, we have it, yeah, so we have lots more
Because there
steps
were-
to go.
Because there was so much last night. Nora wants to say, okay, what can we do to change this so it gets adopted?
All right.
Or so that
Yeah.
people get on board.
So
So it's a
you
work
have to
session
want
on
to move
this.
forward.
So that's where we're at. Okay.
And I get just, I know it's the Main Street part, but I would, again, contact that portion that is also being affected.
Sure.
With
Roundabout, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's even, if you even out to Kathy too, right? Even out to me, right? This all impacts beyond just downtown.
Everybody, yeah.
Right.
But they have to get involved.
Yep, totally. I agree.
Are there any more comments, either in person or online on the Ennis, the presentation? Okay, hearing none. We'll close this. Thank you, Wayne,
Thank you,
for
Wayne.
have a safe trip back. And we will see you on the 26th.
Now, this is on the city website, right?
So there's, we can get it on the IT on the city website.
It's on the city website.
And
There's
then
a
the
link.
cushingterrell.com/envision Ennis. That's on everything that's been.
And there is a link on there.
There is a link on our website to that website. And that's where people can make comments too.
That's fine. I just wanted to be able to direct people to see something.
Yes, so that is on, so the link is on the.
Like I said, I'm totally happy to help to get the word out. I know the people who will be very interested in this, and some people won't be, and that's fine. But we just, Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Keep in mind in the future, we are gonna have that storm drain.
Okay, so next on is Resolution 561-2021, Gas Tax Monies.
And you guys, when you came in, there was some extra, it says like Appendix A, Appendix B.
Yeah.
Those go with that resolution. That's just part of what I turn into the state.
Okay.
When I'm applying for those funds.
And are these, and these ones are specifically for road maintenance. I know there's two different funds, right?
This is the extra money that the state came up with for streets and roads. So it's a gas tax, but it's the bridge and roads safety administration.
Okay, and do we have to identify a project specifically for this one?
Yes, and that's why I had this year's construction. Fits their criteria for those paving projects.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read the resolution. A resolution requesting distribution of a bridge and road safety and accountability program funds. Whereas the bridge and road safety and accountability account created by HB 473 requires the Montana Department of Transportation to allocate funds to cities, towns, counties, and consolidated city county governments for construction, reconstruction, maintenance, and repair of rural roads, city or town streets and alleys, bridges or roads and streets that the city, town, county, or consolidated city county government has the responsibility to maintain. And whereas the city, town, county, or consolidated city county government that requests funds under the bridge and road safety and accountability account must match each $20 requested with $1 of local government matching funds. And whereas the city, town, county, or consolidated city county government requesting distribution of allocated funds may make such a request that the Department of Transportation between March 1st and November 1st of the year the funds were allocated. And whereas the description of the projects to be funded is detailed in Appendix A, and whereas the local match of the allocated funds is identified in Appendix B, therefore now be it resolved that the town of Ennis requests distribution of this share of this allocated bridge, road, and safety and accountability funds to be used for projects identified in Appendix A, 2, the mayor of the town of Ennis is hereby empowered to authorize and execute such further documents as may be necessary to facilitate the distribution of said funds. Adopted this day, 14th of October, 2021. So I move to approve resolution 561-2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Move to approve, Christie?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Next agenda item is resolution 562-2021. Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, Montana, implementing a one-time discount on utility bills for emailing and ACH billing. So this was the utility billing that we discussed last time. Yes. Is there any updates, any other things that we should know, Brittany?
Nope, we just went right with the $10 for each. So $10 one-time discount for email sign up and $10 for ACH.
Okay.
So they'll be immediately on the following bill after they sign up.
Okay. Sounds great. So resolution 562-2021, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, Montana, implementing a one-time discount on utility bills for email and ACH billing. Whereas the utility customers have multiple choices on how to receive and pay their monthly utility charges with the Town of Ennis, and whereas utility and water and sewer billing statements can be sent by email, and whereas the utility bills can be processed through the ACH system, and whereas the Ennis Town Commission sees the benefits for the customers and the Town of Ennis by offering a one-time discount of $10 when signing up for email billing and a one-time discount of $10 when signing up for ACH automated clearinghouse payments. Now therefore be it resolved on October 14th, 2021, at a scheduled meeting of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, the Commission did approve implementation of a one-time $10 on a customer's utility bill when said customer signups for email billing, and a one-time discount for $10 on a customer's utility bill when said customer signs up for ACH payments. Passed and adopted by the Town Commission, Town of Ennis, Montana, the scheduled meeting thereof held this 14th day of October 2021. I move to approve resolution 562-2021.
Second.
Any discussion? Move to approve. Start with myself. Aye.
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 Aye. Jason, aye.
You aye
Okay.
twice.
Sorry. Going in a roundabout. Okay. Next agenda item is Hr Audit discussion. This was brought up. Hr Shepherd from MMIA is willing to do a HR audit and help us out with pairing out job descriptions and what people are actually doing, and to also help with the reporting structure to make sure we're just all in a line, kind of doing some housekeeping. And so MMIA is our insurance provider, and they have our HR consultants. And with that, I think it's a good decision to have someone, another set of eyes to come in and to make sure that everything is aligned with our job descriptions matching the jobs that people are actually doing. So that way.
Is that something that we can send him initially, what job descriptions we have and the policy and procedure manual, so that he can get?
Yeah, so he has a heads up.
He can, he can take a look at it.
As far as I know, yeah, when I called and talked to him, he was like, yep, I can come down, but I'm certainly, if we can forward as much information to him before he comes down, I think that would save him some time. So, yeah, and it's a free service through them, so it would just be good for us to take advantage of it, and just to make sure that everyone's duties, their job description actually describes what they do on a daily basis, because you do a lot of things, so you want to make sure that they're all in there.
Well, I think too, when
do a lot.
And that's everybody
doesn't even have,
and other tasks as required.
Brittany doesn't really have one.
Yeah.
Susie just took over. I think that even in the Kelly's leaving,
Yeah.
we just need to update them and have them
Definitely.
for.
And to make sure, and since the staff does wear so many hats, is that there is a reporting structure that's clearly defined. so everybody knows who's not only responsible, but, for that, who, if you have a grievance or where that chain of command falls. So to have that outlined.
So just a question, what do you think if I make contact with him and ask him what he would like to see and what we have?
Sure.
presently,
Yeah.
And how he would like to go about, looking at it and then planning for him to come.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna be a pretty busy couple of months.
I feel like that would be the most efficient way, because if he just comes down and has never seen anything, he'll need a lot of our time to, you know what I mean? Whereas if he can get his eyes on.
Yeah, and we can see, they're pros at doing this, so I'd really like to make sure that they're doing it in there. He said he could come down quickly, and so on how much they wanna, I think maybe it's an observation, or whether he wants to send out a questionnaire, what you do, or whatever, but they have a process on which they follow, so I would like to follow their process, because they're the ones that have.
Yes, Angela signed us and did our last policy and procedure.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yes, so someone that used to do this for a living, it's pretty simple it's gonna be time consuming, but just get them as much data. It's the policy and procedures that's painful.
Yeah.
Now, the job script is pretty easy to develop.
Yeah.
But the policy and procedures are the tough part.
Yeah, and it's been quite a few years since Angela, the last time that it was updated. She went through it and made sure.
I think that was before I was on the council. So.
State law and, that we were following everything, so it's definitely in line to be updated.
Yeah. Do we need to make a motion to go ahead with this and vote on this, or can we just do it?
No, I think because when I talked to Derek, he wanted a motion, so that way it was outlined for him what we wanted him to do, so it was clear.
So do you want more information that I'll get from him on?
No, I think we can go ahead and do a motion with the description, and then we can contact him on what he wants. So then that way, we don't have to have a whole other meeting, we can it can just proceed. So once we get from him what they want.
Does this not involve any future job descriptions, or is that?
To a young person.
To
the young person we hire.
Yeah.
Even John's second officer probably doesn't have a job description?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about potentially hiring a planner.
Yeah.
Let him include that.
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly.
Or a city manager?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
they have examples that they can.
I'm just gonna keep saying it.
provide to us.
A young city manager.
ESPs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly what is needed, so.
Gives you a basis to start from anyway. You can always revise them.
Did you comment, or you just?
No,
They're
that was
just
just my,
flexing your fingers.
I'm just fidgeting.
I thought maybe he was making the motion.
Yeah. So I kind of have something written out as I wanted to make sure that I got all the things that Derek needed in there in the motion to make sure it's clear for him. Let's see. So I move to approve an HR audit, which includes MMIA to review the job descriptions and positions with an audit of hours if deemed necessary by the MMIA representative to ensure.
She cannot make a motion.
Why not?
Because you're presiding the meeting.
Oh, okay. Kelly,
I'll take it.
can you read my chickens?
So it's review and update job descriptions.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be and make hold on, Jason, and to make recommendation, that's gonna be the part.
If you're running the meeting, you can make a motion.
You're acting as mayor.
And.
What about the resolutions then?
What about
Now I'm going back.
Do we have to redo those then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Brittany just pointed out that, we had put it on the agenda as an HR audit discussion.
So you can.
So she
Can you
wanted
make
to
decisions?
make
Yeah,
a
it's a discussion.
motion
I think we can make a motion on that portion.
It's on the agenda.
Jim, are we allowed to make a motion regarding the HR audit?
So if you put something on for discussion, then you cannot vote on it. It's a discussion. You can't pass something that's set for discussion only.
Okay, so
Doesn't
guys,
say
how
on.
about at the meeting the 26th? We will tag on some meeting agenda items.
Sure.
That could be taken care of fairly quickly.
Okay.
So will that work?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other thing that we missed tonight was the library wages.
They're not ready.
Karen
They're not ready, okay.
wasn't gonna be here, and
Can that maybe go on the 26th, depending on if she's ready?
I think she is ready. I meant, how much time do you want to spend on discussion, and then?
Oh, true, because it's
I
gonna
mean,
probably be.
I think that one is pretty straightforward. If she's got her numbers and she's ready, then that should be a quick, it's the same as this one. It should be a quick.
Just an idea, since we're adding.
So, okay, do you guys want to do, redo the motions on those resolutions?
How does that read?
So,
I move to approve resolution.
just say I move to approve.
That's it?
Ginger, can I
Do we
start?
have to undo?
Wait,
I
you're
mean,
starting over on the resolution?
Well, she's running the meeting, so they don't count, right?
Yeah.
I move to approve resolution 561-2021, a resolution requesting distribution of bridge and road safety and accountability programming funds.
I second it.
Do we have to call the vote again?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just
Move
going
to approve, Cory?
Aye.
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 Sorry, who's second?
Cory. You gonna do the next one, Christie?
I move to approve resolution 562-2021, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, Montana, implementing a one-time discount on utility bills for emailing and ACH bills.
Second.
Move to approve?
Move, yes. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'm tired.
Okay, let's see. This is my agenda. Okay, so we already talked about HR discussion. That will be moved to the October 26th meeting.
Is it HR audit vote to approve?
We've got motion and vote.
Motion and vote. I guess, let's see, our department reports. Here we go. Who would like to go first? Susie?
Oh, thank you. You have my written report in front of you, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I have one for you. There you go.
Just because you proved it.
There you go.
I guess. Thank you for doing that. So, okay, so we'll be seeing a T&D project. So will that go to the planning board this month in October?
It's already gone to the planning board for the Stephen Street one.
No, the William Street one, West William Street one, I'm sorry.
Yes, it's gone to the planning board already. And so it'll be on their agenda in November and come back to you.
They have a November 1st meeting and then maybe another meeting right away.
I believe it's the 29th.
29th and the 1st or something. I think there's two.
Yeah, there was something that there was supposed to be some amendment, text amendments that they're looking at doing, so I think there was a reading for there or something
Well,
like
that's
that.
what Alex is hoping for, is it'll be on their agenda for the end of November.
Okay.
So it can come back to the council in December.
Okay, all right.
And then the Stephen Street one,
The Seventh Street one, you guys have already heard.
Yeah.
I actually had a Zoom meeting with Nicole and Wayne because, there's a few conditions, so, the permit process seems like it stops after they come to you.
Yeah.
They haven't done a zone site permit, so I've spoke to the contractor and the owners, so they're going to do that before they go any farther.
Okay, because they removed trees. Did
Yeah,
they do
possibly.
excavation too?
He probably has. There's some like 10 feet of really good topsoil, so he has to drill down for the foundation or for the flagpole.
Water's really high there.
Yeah, just-
there's a big tree trunk right now.
yeah. So they're getting ready there, but they got water and sewer already there. So they're, I believe Kelly's been down there and through the process.
Sounds good. Thank you. And thank you for the report.
When you guys update the applications and fees, does that come back to us? Do we have to do that by resolution or?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Can we put that on October 26th?
We probably won't be ready by then, but.
But the November meeting, hopefully?
And I don't know, we just had the meeting yesterday and it was Nicole said we were gonna move it to the top to redo the form, cause I reverted back to the old form that's in the code book, but it's a horrible form. So I found where the newest form was approved back in, I don't know, whatever it says on there, I don't have a copy in front of me, but.
Because that'll make your life easier too.
Yes,
The
totally.
sooner we get that done.
Yes.
Okay.
But I believe Nicole has a really good understanding and good feel for what we need to do, so hopefully it'll go really smooth.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. What else would, Ginger?
Yep, you have my written, any questions?
Let's see. So did you meet already with the county planner on the annexations, or is that coming up?
We're in phone contact.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm in contact with Alex.
Okay.
But, the property owners haven't come back with their application and what's required of them.
Okay.
Nor have they paid their fees.
Okay, so they need to do that first. And
so
with has the
it's-
hospital submitted an application or
They
no?
have not. I talked to Wayne about that. I know
Okay.
he's been assisting them.
Yes.
He wants to make sure, or they want to make sure that they have, a complete
Okay.
package.
So it's
ready.
not going back. Gotcha.
Yeah, ready
Okay.
to come to us.
Thank you for that. Let's see, Ennis Police Department. We have his. Looks like they did, hire Officer Matt Fisher. That's exciting. Questions on that? Reach out to John. Kelly, did you want to give a report? Or Brittany?
Yes. Okay, I'm getting feedback. I would rather have the virus 3 more times than to do the go-to meeting. There's too much background. It's hard to understand.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I think there are other platforms that we need to look at. I've asked for that several times. So there are some other,
We all want it.
we hear you, Kelly. So do you want to provide us with a report or do you just want to submit? We're here to listen.
Again, I hear 3 people talking.
Eric took off.
And when I look at the people with mics on, there's like 6 people with mics on.
That would be the commissioner sitting in.
You want us to turn them off?
Yes.
No, not the commissioners. I'm talking visitors.
No, you're the only one.
Anyway, let me make it brief. Eric was ready to submit a report. And this is a guy that works in sewer, but there was a smell in the room that he wasn't comfortable with. The hydrogeological study will be ready before the next meeting of the commission. And it's very interesting. You guys will see it. I don't have a lot more. Eric.
Had more to
Eric
do.
has
Okay.
stuff.
New employee, right?
No, we appreciate Eric's time. I'm sorry he had to leave. I know, I think he did have.
Sean O'Donnell.
Sean O'Donnell. Welcome, Mr. O'Donnell.
Is there a smell in here?
And where's the other?
All right, here we go. Okay, Kelly, anything else?
He turned his
Mic off, so no, okay.
No,
let's see.
I have nothing else, but anybody can contact me anytime with any questions.
Great. Thank you, Kelly, for your time. Karen has submitted her library report. Brittany, you're not doing a report?
I am not, but
okay.
if you guys want.
That sounds great. James, do you have any comments for you in the legal department?
So did you guys get the copy of my proposed draft public meetings policy?
I did. Thank you so much for putting it together.
Okay, and then the other document, I'm hoping that you had a chance to take a look at, or at least made it into your meeting folder, is it's a form for your conditional use permit and land use agreement.
Didn't see that.
No, we did not see that. It's it's this.
The Willie's.
It says in the matter of Willie's Distillery. Is that?
Correct.
Yeah, it's like a sample.
Oh, that's a sample. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I was working with Susie, who's your zoning administrator, obviously, and Susie's doing a great job trying to bring the forms and the process up to speed. Susie asked me to look at the land use agreement, and I drafted that conditional use permit / permit agreement, and it's the type of document which I think the town should move in the direction of adopting, so that we have a formal record of what's approved, along with the supporting documentation, the plans, so we could go back and look at that and say this was what was approved, if there's any question about whether they conformed or not.
So this would be like the memorandum that Wayne was talking about, or the memorializing.
It's like the T&D agreement that we need to, it's like the start of the T&D agreement that we need to finish up Willie's application. They're all done with that.
Okay.
So we can use it for multi things, but.
To actually have a contract, like or some kind of.
It's an agreement, yeah.
Agreement to look back on, or.
Of what was
It's just like, you can open the file and that paper's on top and you can see what you approved and what the conditions are.
Yeah. Like, we have a condition, they have a sidewalk. Do they have a sidewalk? No, they're not meeting there. And this gets us to the point where I think we were talking about, in a code update, we'll need some kind of certificate of completion. And so I think this would help with that if we were to move in that direction.
I'm still at the start, I haven't got to the end yet.
Yeah. Sounds good. No, I think this is perfect. Thank you so much, James, for putting this together. It's very helpful.
You're welcome.
All right, and I think, yep, these would be items to.
With this one, is this something that we post?
We're here.
Yeah, I guess, James, in your talking about Town of Ennis public meetings policy, since it's a policy and not an ordinance, can we adopt this by resolution or adopt the policy? Not tonight, but in future meetings. It was just.
Yes, you could adopt that as a policy. It's not a resolution. It's not an ordinance. It's not an amendment to your town code. It's just a guidance. It's a document that you publish on your website. And people would understand the process of attending public meetings. And I would distill that down to maybe, 5 or 10 points. And that would just be the policy behind those points, those essential guidelines.
Yeah, like Three Forks has on the back of each agenda, they have, this is what it takes to participate.
And I looked at that, and I think Lisa, you had distributed that. And I looked at that and I expanded on it so that people would understand the reason why there's some formality involved.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Well, thanks for all your hard work on this, James.
I appreciate that, and I would have been there in person. Some things came up, I couldn't make it, so now I have to deal with the feedback on my end as well. But I guess we'll get that worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should ask him if it does it during court. Ask him about somebody.
About what?
Ask him if it has a feedback during court.
So,
He's still there.
James, are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I do not
Do you
get
get
this
this
type
kind
of reverberation when I'm go-to meeting with Judge Behar.
I wonder if it is our mics.
I think it's because you have so many microphones on and the sensitivity is high. So that's creating the feedback loop. And I'm going to do an experiment right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down my speakers. I'm going to mute myself on my end, at least my speakers. And now I'm going to continue talking, and now I'm going to come back up. Did that change anything?
No.
So I think it's an issue on your end with too much sensitivity, too many microphones.
At the school board meetings, they turn on their microphones only when they talk.
Right. And it's horrible if you ever have listened to a meeting at home.
Oh, I've done, yeah. I didn't come to all of them. Jim, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ginger. Thank you, everyone. I'll stay on just to watch the end of the meeting.
This is Kelly. I think a lot of the problem is the group people having their mics on.
Did you guys all turn your mics off?
Yeah.
Oh, like on their phones?
Yeah, but they're all muted. Like when I get on a meeting, it automatically mutes me. Because I've done a lot of, like even the school board, I'm not going to all of them, and it automatically mutes you. And they're muted.
Yeah, I think we just need to look at a different platform for this, and maybe we suggest that. I know Officer Morris said something about different camera angles, but I think there are other more suitable platforms. But
that's a speaker right up there also.
Yeah, there's so many speakers in here.
Yeah.
Because once you unplug everything, you can still hear everything.
Yeah, right. So, okay, but moving on with our agenda, commission comments. My fellow commissioners.
Did the mayor have any comments, Ginger? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, did he? Okay. Got nothing.
I just want to give an update. I did.
Oh, put your microphone.
Oh. I talked to Officer Moore to get an update on the mill levy, and he said he'd give us an update at the November meeting. So that's it.
My update is that the Ennis Tree Board partnered with Ennis Public Works and Ennis Public Schools, the 6th and 7th grades, helped us. Public Works pulled out 4 trees down at Lions Club Park and 2 trees at the Conley Park that were dead, and we, with the help of Bailey Landscaping, replanted those 6 trees. So it was kind of a makeup of Arbor Day for those grades because during COVID, there wasn't an Arbor Day celebration. So they did a fantastic job.
If I may say, I saw some pictures and it looked like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the kids were wonderful. Nicole Bailey was there to helping, and Russ and his guys, and then Eric came down, and yeah, it was a great time. So yeah, so we're hopefully those trees will take after that. I think it was just the cold spring that we had that killed those trees. So hopefully they'll be big and beautiful and providing shade here soon. John, do you have any comments?
No.
Corey?
Yeah, basically just, I was just gonna read a little bit. You guys have all received an email from Daniel Bierschwelder, just talking about an outline of activity or action items for the team. I was just gonna read a couple of them real quick. The initial ones, like read the state statutes regarding resort tax, review ordinances from different communities and understand your leverage. So like with our town, he recommended don't tax firearms or ammunition because it's kind of what stopped the resort tax last time. I felt a lot of people were in opposition to that. And you're selling, it's a very competitive market. There's a lot of people around in Bozeman, all over the place that sell guns and firearms. And when you tax an individual who's selling hard goods, a 3% additional, he could possibly affect his business for sure.
Her. They sold. She might not have the same opinion.
Bozeman has no resort tax.
I don't think it's her
tax.
opinion. I think it's the buyer's opinion, and then they'll go to Bozeman.
People,
buy.
people
They
come.
got
It's okay. It's Commissioner comment. I'm sorry.
People come from Bozeman to buy here
Yeah.
because of that.
Okay.
Well, that's it.
Continue, Corey.
So another thing is understanding, so back to understanding your leverage, seasonal or year round. And I think just an observation that I've seen from even just being at the farmers markets that we got back up and running, I would probably suggest like, the tourists, there still are tourists here right now, but I've definitely seen a lull in the attendance at the farmers market, I guess, as far as tourists who happen to be randomly coming through town. One other item, the property tax refund, which several people touched on earlier, the 5% back to property owners. And one thing Larry Pine brought up to me was he's like, my parents are retirement age now, and they live back in New Jersey, and their property value, they just do property, they've continued to just raise property tax, and their property is worth this exorbitant amount of money, and they're paying like of a high property tax at that point. And I think I've seen it triple since I've been here in town, 13 years. And I think, trying to, we can continue to, go ahead.
You don't have to just do 5%, it could be 10% or 15 back to property taxes too. That's not a set thing, at least that much has to go, yeah.
Yeah, we
For
can,
those folks on fixed incomes, it does help.
sure. And we can customize this as much as we want. I think getting the discussion going and moving forward with a handful of these things. And then ultimately it comes down to a vote, so, the people get to speak whether they want it or not. So I think it would be great from employing some additional employees, so. And the other item, sorry, Dave, we did the pollinator gardens earlier this year, and I might just forward to all you guys or did Dave happen to send that to you? I can forward that on and it can just get sent out to everyone, but it just talks about, we did a pollinator garden out in the big roundabout out there, and some of the items that we might do differently next year, so it's a little bit more successful. And I don't think the water was on initially. There were a handful of items that they've laid out in here regarding that. And did we ever give them any money? There was talk about doing 500 at one point.
I thought we did, Corey, but let me check on that. to be
Okay.
sure.
He made mention like, hey, I thought maybe we were gonna get some money off of that.
I think we did make that motion.
I feel
I
like
thought I sent them a check. I mean,
I want to
maybe
say
I
it's
can
in
do
your
it.
minutes. I
Yeah.
read something about 500, but I don't know what it said.
Yeah.
Who is it to?
Conservation district.
Yeah. So he made mention of it, so I feel like
Sure.
we
talked about it at least once or twice.
Yeah.
And I thought we did make that motion. I do have one other comment, that we have some, and I know our meeting went on tonight and we'll get out of here, but I think there are some things that we have discussed in the past that need to be on, and maybe we need to have some special meetings, but that didn't make it on the agenda tonight, one being the library, things that we discussed, but the zoning text amendments, the zoning fees, annexation fees, impact fees, the street repair bond, business licenses, and noise ordinance, things that have been brought up recently.
Pretty much everything.
That we need to get accomplished. So, and I know we had two presentations tonight, and one was pretty lengthy, but I would like to see if we can't take some of those off of the list. So that's my.
I know it's commission, but can I make a comment?
Sure.
I guess like Nicole and I are going to work on the fees for the permit and the site permit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are somebody working on those already? I mean, are
Well, we did have that one work session. When was that? Is that in August?
Mm-hmm.
That we discussed the fees of what we would like to see on the zoning fees. So we did kind of come up with a structure on that. So maybe we can forward you those notes from that meeting.
Right, but I think maybe it would be more effective if you had Nicole and I work on something and Brittany is working on business license or something, and then bring the numbers to you, and then you have them there instead of trying to.
Yeah, trying to work it all out during that. And I think, and we can take a look at impact fee. Yeah, if you're willing to do that and take it.
Not fees, but
the zoning fees, if we can take the notes, maybe we can have the notes from that work session of what we came up with and forward them to you and Nicole, so you know what we were looking at.
Okay.
So would that be helpful?
I think impact fees we talked about, but I don't think we ever discussed numbers.
I don't remember fees, I remember setbacks, going one by one, checking setbacks.
That was
we did fees
Right.
too.
Yeah, we did a fee, at a work session, we did fees. Positive we did.
That's the stuff keeps getting carried and then it's gone.
Right.
So,
Well, that's why if somebody brings the template to you already done, then you can make the decision.
yeah, because we
Approve it or
sat
change.
down with one of the forms and said, this is, fences should be this, single family house, we did that. So I don't know.
I must have not.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Okay.
You weren't there.
Okay.
So if we can track down that information, get it to Susie. Yeah, because
Even business license stuff, didn't we come up with fees one night?
we did do that as well.
So maybe if
You had-
we can
yeah,
find
you had
it,
ideas.
Wendy works on a new template too, like Susie's saying, and then we have it, we can just start the readings and start
Well,
approving, right?
That's why my comment was, we need to go back to these things because it seems like we do talk, we tie up the loose ends.
Yeah.
So-
We were gonna do dog
If
license.
I could add, it's common in a jurisdiction that has an impact fee for building, that it's based on square footage. Doesn't matter if it's single family,
Yeah.
dual family.
Yeah, I think I found like
just a
three-fourths
garage,
and
anything they have to take a permit out.
Yeah.
So much a square foot.
Yeah, and that is, and Bozeman had an interesting way of like, it's this for the fire department, this for the school, this for, it had.
Well, the school has to go after their own impact fee. Fire department has to go after their own impact.
Okay.
You have to go after the town's impact fee.
And I can visit with Nicole about,
Okay.
see what her thoughts
the
are.
other towns have they have it structured.
Well, they may
Because
have.
they own all those
Yeah.
services. I guess
They
the
have
difference
all
is
those.
they own all those services.
Right.
Like it's Bozeman Fire Department, it's Bozeman.
They,
Yeah.
they just, the jurisdiction
Yeah.
is just saying how it's distributed.
Yeah.
If it's a school impact fee, and I want to build a new garage, I take a fee to the school. I don't send it to you and then you send it to them.
Whatever happened with the bonding for the street cuts? Anybody?
That's another thing, we asked Public Works to get us, I think Eric was probably working on some figures, finding out what it, actually costs if somebody comes in and does, somebody has to come in and do the repair.
work, yeah.
Right, so I think he's working on trying to get those amounts.
What about pet licenses and business licenses?
We did go through and that was the thing with the business licenses. It was presented. We did come up, I thought we came up with, we liked the base structure, and then it was a base license fee, and then done by category. So I think we just need to finalize that as well. Because Ginger,
Like category,
John,
like industry.
category by industry, restaurants, retail,
Was it
lodging.
Yellowstone's we liked?
Yeah, it was very similar to that, yeah. So.
And are you adding in, like your short-term rental?
I think we
Yes.
should,
and that type of-
yeah. I mean,
That was
this
the
is what
whole point
Wayne
of
hit
it.
on tonight at 45, 4 to 5 of them.
Yes.
I can't believe we thought there was like 20, right? And he
Yeah.
said 40,
I'm curious where they found.
he said 45, I thought we were at
VRBO
23.
and Airbnb and Google.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was like 17 or however many I sent you guys.
probably some seasonal ones. I just worked in a lady's house who rented out during the summertime.
All right, let's see, where did I put my agenda? Okay, and next item on or is there any more comments? No. Okay, next item, claims.
I move to approve the claims.
Second.
Aye.
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 Move to adjourn.
Perfect.
Second.
Call the vote.
Aye.
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 I'm so confused right now, I feel
Aye.
like. It's you, go. I'm tired.
Thank you for coming.
I will be there Tuesday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday morning,
Bless
folding.
your heart. Yeah, it's gonna be a party.
I'm gonna be closed at the shop, so I gotta go. If anybody wants to fold Tuesday morning, come to school, we're gonna fold mailers.
It will
Oh,
take
it's gonna
long.
be 3,500?
Holding up.
Lord.
Well, I did 750.
I think we need to go to the women's club and recruit women.
Like, there's a whole bunch of children.
Is
that
wanna
great?
get dark now? Take it to the kindergarten class?
Yeah, take like the art class, this is your new origami.
I remember having to do that when I was in school. They made us fold a bunch of stuff up in class. I'm like, what am I doing this for?
It's not part of class.
Good night, John.
Good night, John. Night, John.
Yeah, will you go home and rest already?
I'm gonna try.
Okay. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much for coming. I gotta go home and pack.
Where are you going?
Florida. Gonna go see my dad, who I haven't seen in 2 years. He lives in New York, but he's in
The drive for two.
the drive for 2 years. We're gonna do some fishing.
Oh, fine. I didn't even wear one.
Hey, Maria.
Not that I ever did.
I was gonna say.
Not that I ever did.
I don't doubt.
Are you not gonna do it?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, yeah, good.
I didn't even look.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, those
Did you
are the
three
worst
times?
things ever.
Yeah.
Every single one of ours fell apart.
People want to do what?
Who would you take the?
Binders from Cushing Terrell. They don't stay together. Things fall apart.
I will now.
Stop worrying about it. Stop fidgeting with it. Stop. Stop. I was doing it during the meeting and I was like, leave it alone. I'll get it. I'll get it. You got it? Thank you. All right, good night. I'm not confused every time. I'm confused in general. In general, I'm confused.
It's like you're, like people who have fans, and that's what you say.
I'm confused.
Excuse me.
I'm blonde.
It's your tagline.
I go on here a lot.
Oh, gotta move my body.
Switch?
Thank you for my belt. You see her?
Hey, good morning.
Really nice for storage.
So with that.
Oh, it's right there.
You can put it right by Chrissy if you want.
Thank you.
Need one more?
Sure.
Good.
And I tried to go, I don't get it. I need an answer. I'm gonna ask John if we can get it. But, you know, after I don't, you know,
Yeah.
Because I was like, did I have the deer in the headlights?
Ginger, it's stressful. Like, she does it good, but it's stressful and it's not.
So, like, I don't want to.
You can't until you will.
Letter, but-
You know, I think you just have those out.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
I paid my utility